So, what is a trauma bond? Well, a trauma bond means that you are bonded to the person either despite the trauma that's going on in the relationship or because of the trauma. So, what happens is in your childhood, you may have had trauma in a dysfunctional family, you might have been molested, something happened that just exposed you to a lot of trauma. So, you learned that you stay even though somebody is harming you. Maybe that was the example that your parent set, is staying in relationships that were harmful. But when you are feel like you're stuck in a relationship, even though you know it's not good for you, it is often related to a trauma bond. Now, one of those things that is common is that you stay because the person promises you something good will happen, that you'll get something you want, like maybe you'll finally get married or you'll finally have a child or the person will finally get a job or will get into therapy, whatever it is that you've desperately wanted, uh, that it'll come true. And so you think, okay, now it's going to happen. So you don't leave, you stay in hopes that that is going to happen. But of course, it doesn't happen. Trauma bonded relationships always overpromise and underdeliver. So the thing that you are staying for is not probably going to happen. Also, it could be that you've had moments of goodness in a relationship. You've had times when things are good, and so you stay through the bad, knowing, hey, most likely that something good's going to happen again. He's going to change or she's going to change. It's going to get better. That is another example. And actually, that is what's called intermittent reinforcement. It's that a whole bunch of things happen that are bad, but then once in a while something good happens, and that produces the strongest bond of all, even stronger than something good happens when always or something bad always happens. The intermittent enforcement, you just hang in there waiting, waiting, waiting for that one time that's going to be different. So, also a trauma bonded relationship is one in which there is intensity, so much intensity going on, and other people can often see it. And they're telling you it's not a healthy relationship, but you either don't see it or you don't want to believe it. Also, you may find yourself becoming overly consumed in trying to change this person, like convincing that person that things have to change, have to change. They have to be different. Here's what's wrong. And not recognizing that this hasn't worked and is not going to work, but that wanting to stay and convince that person to change will actually keep you engaged even longer. Also, you can feel like you want to stop, but just like an addiction, because trauma bonded relationships are often called addictions, just like you would want to stop, you may feel that you can't, that you will tell yourself, I'm not going to talk to this person again, I'm done. And then before you know it, you're back talking to that person, either answering the phone or going back over there because you just feel so anxious and so uncomfortable and so empty without that person that you find yourself going back and your resolve is not strong enough to stay away. So also there is just a feeling of extreme emptiness when you leave. Like that person might be have been your life, and that person might be just you might be empty yourself, maybe from a lack of developing a self in childhood, or maybe losing it in this relationship, because that is possible, and you just really feel empty without this person. And you might even know that you are being harmed and hurt by this person, but you may feel that you are completely stuck and you have no options at all. So, trauma bonds are very strong. It is important that you don't beat yourself up, but give yourself compassion and understanding to recognize, okay, this is the dynamics that happen in a trauma bonded relationship. This is an example of what happens when I come into this relationship with previous trauma and I have more trauma, and then that makes it even harder for me to walk away. Because if you don't understand what it is, then you're going to have a hard time just not giving, or you're going to beat yourself up and feel bad about yourself, and then you're not going to recognize what the solution is. So the first step is to have awareness of the fact that, hey, this is a trauma bonded relationship. I'm experiencing this strong bond because of this. So what you can do is you can stay in the moment, just help yourself focused on what is happening in the moment and how you feel. Do I feel bad with this person? Do I feel good with this person? What does it hurt? Do I feel fear? What is going on? So not thinking about what it could be, what it should be, what it was, but how you feel right now. And you want to stay in that reality and help yourself, whether it's your friends reminding you or a therapist, or I like to journal in a journal, like write letters to yourself when you're feeling really like clear, and you recognize the abuse, or you recognize the manipulation or the addiction or the trauma or the cycles or cyclical drama that happens. You write yourself a letter. I like to put it to yourself, just like I would write it as Dear Carla. And I've written these letters to myself. And then when I feel less clear, I go back and read them and go, this is what is going on. Don't doubt yourself, or believe that, this was really bad. You do need to leave, and this really isn't okay. So that's a really helpful thing, is to journal or write a letter to yourself so that you can go back and be clear about the dynamics and what was going on. So that inability to leave is part of the trauma bond. And it's very important that you allow yourself to recognize how hard it is, but then to get help, to leave because it is not good for you, which involves taking care of yourself also, being really good and compassionate to yourself, having outside support, like from a therapist, making sure that you absolutely, like I said, journal and be clear and write notes and letters to yourself so that you can stay in that reality. This is what's really going on. This is an abusive relationship, and just support yourself in whatever it takes. It is recommended that when you think about leaving a trauma bonded relationship or an abusive relationship, that you don't try to think ahead. Not that you don't need to plan, because you need to be in reality, but that you don't try to think ahead to the rest of your life. You just recognize, I've got to do this. I've got to take care of myself in this relationship. I have to get help, or I have to leave, and I'll do this one day at a time and worry about the rest later, because it's overwhelming to leave, and it's overwhelming to think about how is everything going to work out, and how are you going to get through the pain and the loneliness and the emptiness. It's more like, this is really bad. I really need to take care of myself and recognize that. So you can break free of a trauma bond. You will likely need help, and that is always available through a trauma-informed therapist who understands how trauma affects you. Here are some scriptures. Psalm 27:11 through 14 says, Teach me your way, Lord. Lead me in a straight path because of my oppressors. Do not turn me over to the desire of my foes, for false witnesses rise up against me, spouting malicious accusations. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and take heart, and wait for the Lord. So yes, so you can have that confidence and that strength that it is going to get better as you get out of that trauma bonded relationship, or at least recognize that trauma bonded relationship. Proverbs 26:20 through 21 says, Without wood, a fire goes out. Without a gossip, a quarrel dies down. As charcoal to embers and as wood to fire, so is a quarrelsome person for kindling strife. So you know that this person does what they do, and that is what it produces. And you can recognize the cause and effect in that. You can also recognize the cause and the effect in why you feel like it's hard to leave. Ezra 9:8 says, But now for a brief moment, The Lord our God has been gracious in leaving us a remnant and giving us a firm place in his sanctuary. And so our God gives light to our eyes and a little relief in our bondage. And a trauma bond is bondage. So I hope that this gave you a little bit of insight into that. There's obviously lots of information available on trauma bonds in books and online if you feel like you need more. But my main purpose in bringing this to you is that you would understand why it may be so difficult for you to leave, because often people in relationships feel bad about themselves, or in difficult relationships feel very bad about themselves. Because, well, what's wrong with me? And their friends might even say that to them, like, leave, like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you put up with that? And I remember one time my mom said to me, gosh, you know better. And it was like, that felt so shaming. Like, yeah, I do. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I keep continuing to do this? And it's important not that we excuse our behavior, but that we understand our behavior. We want to understand the why that we do it, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. And then we need to give grace and compassion. So nothing good comes out of beating ourselves up. We just stay stuck feeling worse about ourselves. But when we give ourselves compassion, the same compassion and grace that we would give someone else in a similar situation, it can be healing and supportive. Like I said, not to excuse it. We still take responsibility. Like, yeah, I'm in a relationship that where I shouldn't be tolerating this treatment. I need to do something about it, but I'm struggling, and this is why. And I'm going to get help to strengthen myself and to help myself get longer. And I'm going to give myself the time that it takes to be able to do that. That is the grace. That is the support that will actually empower you rather than beat you up and pull you down. So I hope that this has helped you, and I would suggest that you check out my classes. They're very, very helpful for getting more clear and stronger in your difficult relationships, and even helping you to break those trauma bonds. So God bless you, and please let me know if you have any questions.